Sup everyone, I'm the cartoon Physicist, and this is the Noughtie List, taking apart the good, the bad, and the forgotten of the new millennium. Today, we're looking at the only film adaptation of the story that everyone knows Lovecraft for, Call of Cthulhu. And guess what? It was made in 2005. It is an independent film, but I usually make an exception if the film is interesting enough. Maybe they show a 1920s short at the beginning of it. I'll just fast forward it. But it says right here, 2005. And yet it shows, but it says here. What? Okay, now I know what's going on. Man, how am I going to review this movie? The only old silent films I watch are Charlie Chaplin movies. Unless...
So today, we're going to be looking at Shirley Temple and the Littlest Rebel. Oh my god, I need a stiff drink.
Hi.
Hi? Can I help you with something? I'm trying to review a racist little girl over here.
Got a better movie with a stop-motion octopus man.
Ooh, that sounds much better than racist Shirley Temple.
Great. It's the Call of Cthulhu, made in 2005.
Sorry, you're on your own.
Wait. It was made in 2005, yes, but it was made to look like a 1920s film. You see, the people behind the movie, the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society, made a ton of Lovecraft-related stuff, like Christmas carols. Death to the world, Cthulhu's come. A rock opera album. A musical parody of Fiddler on the Roof called Shut Off on the Roof. And a lot of 1930s style radio dramas, which are similar to their movies. The society basically came up with a concept along the lines of, what if H.P. Lovecraft signed a movie deal? They applied that concept to their film adaptations, like The Whisper in the Dark. The Whisper in the Dark was written in 1930, so they made the film adaptation into a 1930s-style horror talkie in the same vein as Dracula, Frankenstein, and King Kong, using a mixture of modern and vintage filmmaking techniques. But that was made in 2011. Luckily, they made a predecessor in 2005 of a short story made in 1926. A silent film similar to Nosferatu and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
I'm listening.
So the movie starts off with our protagonist, Francis Wayland Fuston, in an interview with one of the asylum's doctors. It's understandable why the frame narrative is an interview between the doctor and the mental patient. The story itself was written as though it was Fuston's recount regarding his and other people's evidence of relaying Cthulhu. I really doubt using that frame narratives is even possible in a movie. Well, okay, maybe you could do that in the form of audible narration, but you can't do that in a silent film. Otherwise, the whole movie might as well be the text from the story. Plus, it makes sense to have Huston needing to explain everything to a doctor rather than a reader. I mean, it's easier to count how many of Lovecraft's human characters haven't gone insane.
I'm still trying to get over the fact that a Van Gogh painting made it into this movie.
Yes, I'll be sure to burn all of your cephalopod ink-covered balloon animal fetish photos. You sick, horny little man, you. Actually, it's just his recount of how he discovered his grand-uncle's secret box of secretive secretness after his grunkle, George Gamble Angel, died from being, quote, jostled by a nautical-looking Negro. End quote. It's pretty damn obvious why that's been left out of the movie.
Well, she said they left it out! Anyway, what I was going to say is that the music adds to the overall narrative because of the Lovecraftian tone and how haunting it sounds. Anyway,
The Horror in Clay refers to Professor Grunkle Angel's encounter with Henry Anthony Wilcox, a sculptor who keeps having dreams, possibly precognitions, of Cthulhu and R'lyeh. You see, he made a bas-relief of Cthulhu, which reminded Professor Grunkle Angel of something he saw years earlier, which we'll get to in a little while. The story is kinda non-linear, which is one of the reasons why it's considered Lovecraft's best work. Well, that was randomly brought up. First they talk about a piece of artwork concerning the being that could end the world, and then they suddenly talk about earthquakes. I know they're connected, but the way they mention the earthquakes seems spontaneous.
Not as spontaneous as the gentleman, at least a different gentleman than the one before explains his nightmares to the granduncle who is dead. Well, he's not in a flashback of a flashback. This is confusing if you don't understand film flashbacks or physics.
Well, it was like that in the short story, except with the frame narrative at the beginning with the doctor. You might as well call it Flashbacks, the novella.
I love the imagery here, closing in but panning out, like the viewer is becoming out of reach to help in the nightmare.
I agree. German expressionism absolutely suits the eldritch and maddening non-Euclidean architecture of R'lyeh. It does look a touch fake, but still beautiful in a twisted way. Including my dreams where I'm in my underwear in front of my class? Especially those dreams! They are most definitely vital! So basically this part of the movie consists of a montage of Wilcox talking to Professor Grunkle Angel about his dreams. Soon enough, he was driven insane by the dreams. Guess all that German expressionism made him feel dizzy. But then he just got over it. He doesn't even remember his previous dreams. Maybe Cthulhu is actually a man in black and used his neuralizer on him. He is technically an alien.
Suddenly headlines, ripped from 1925.
So Weary Willie looks through all the newspaper articles that his Grunkle collected over the years. We're given a quick glimpse of what Lovecraft took forever to write about. How... Wait... Voodoo orgies? That's it! Cthulhu doesn't want to destroy the world. He He just wanted to see some hardcore human porn. But those adult video stores weren't going to exist yet for another few decades. So he had to improvise.
You know, to be fair, I would have improvised that too.
And now we move on to part 2, the tale of Inspector LeGrace, about Professor Grunkle Angel meeting with archaeologists years before the horror in clay, in which they were fascinated by a statue that Professor Grunkle Angel was reminded of years later when he was looking at the bas-relief. Everything about it was unknown to them. The creature, the language, the stone. Okay, what's with the music of part 2? It's the most un-Lovecraftian music you could think of. Hell, I don't think it's even suitable for Stephen King's It, the movie.
I'm more concerned with the mysterious object only seen by one mysterious guy. Mysterious mystery!
So anyway, this inspector found the statue during a raid in New Orleans, and they didn't really make it look ancient though. It looks more Art Deco-ish. It looks newer than the bas-relief, even though the bas-relief is supposed to look new. No one recognizes it except for Emilio Largo here, who came across a tribe of sorts in Greenland that worshipped Cthulhu. He mentions an echo chant which never gotten a translation for. Until now, surprisingly from the inspector, who heard it from one of the cultists he took in for questioning during the raid. And so we get another flashback in New Orleans just when we finish Largo's really short flashback.
So now we're in the narrator's flashback of his uncle to 1925, then back to his present, and back to a flashback in 1908, where we flash back to 1907 in a mysterious swamp. So to be clear, we're in a flashback and a flashback and a present after a flashback and a flashback.
Everybody got that?
At the time, the inspector and the police were investigating the disappearances of some squatters who were taken by a Cthulhu cult and used as sacrifices.
It's always a cult! Always!
You know, this is a very interesting approach to non-diegetic music and sounds. They've included drums that are clearly just part of the background music, but they seem diegetic, as though the film was implying that the drums were being played by the cult. It does a great job of immersing you into the story rather than just having you watch stuff happen while listening to irrelevant music.
I run into irrelevant music a lot in silent films, so it's refreshing that the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society has learned something about music.
The film being silent surprisingly preserves the mystery of the sounds and the pronunciation of the chants. It also makes sure Lovecraft fanboys don't bash the film for mispronouncing any of the Lovecraftian names or chants, which is just ridiculous because to Lovecraft, humans' vocal cords are just incapable of properly pronouncing the names or the incantations in his stories, so all we inferior mortals can do is imitate the easiest pronunciation of the gods' names anyway. It's kind of hilarious how everyone is going nuts over such a small statue on a massive monolith. Oh, hail the almighty knick-knack! Oh no, not the Dutch angle. I'm not ready for Battlefield Earth yet! Once a terrifying quote, now a geeky slogan for t-shirts. There have been a lot of interpretations of this quote in the past. I honestly think it talks about how once everything in the universe is dead, then technically death no longer exists. It's like that chair stacking quote in the Sandman comics. Soon enough, Weary Willie becomes just as obsessed with Cthulhu as his grunkle was. Specifically because of a dream he had where he's Ant-Man?
Look, just because he's tiny doesn't mean he can't do great things. Yes, terrible, but great. No, that's Harry Potter. Cthulhu is messing with my brain again.
Part 3, The Madness from the Sea, arrives. Weary Willie comes across an article about a ship called the Emma that discovered an abandoned ship, the Alert, that may have stumbled upon Relay.
Yeah, this investigation is going nowhere like my stalled car in the parking lot. I mean, I understand the original book, but I feel like this is a roller coaster ride I got sick of and just want to get off now. It's just hard to keep track of flashbacks, which I suppose is the point. And I like it.
So upset, guys. So many Lovecraft fans would give their right arm to have such a cool statue. Or finger. Quite a small offering, but I guess that works too.
Because sure, at this point I'm sure Cthulhu has something to do with how convolutedly awesome this all is.
After traveling by dotted line, Weary Willie goes to investigate. From New Zealand to Australia and Norway. Norway was where he finally got some answers. Through the diary of Emma's captain. Through the flashback, we see the SS toy ship finally land on Relay.
See, this sounds ominous and mysterious enough to get you killed.
Did I call that or what?
This part is even more unintentionally hilarious in the story, just because of the way Lovecraft describes it. The stars were right again, and what an age-old cult had failed to do by design, a band of innocent sailors had done by accident.
Alright people, this is what you've all been waiting for. After a big chase through the Relay Sea, we finally get to see Cthulhu?
I have seen worse stop motion. This one's definitely in the top 20, but I have seen worse.
So they managed to escape Cthulhu, but at what cost? Oh no, Captain! Your eyeliner is running! And now that Weary Willie knows everything, he pretty much went insane like everyone else in Lovecraft's stories who knew too much. So now the Doctor is left with a choice. Either burn all the evidence, or gain more forbidden knowledge that'll drive him insane. The movie left it ambiguous, but knowing Lovecraft's stories, I think the answer is pretty obvious.
I'm not insane. You hear me? I'm not insane!
Well, that's not fucking ominous.
So that was the Call of Cthulhu. And Rotten Tomatoes was right. It at least deserves an A-.
This film was amazingly good.
As a Lovecraft fan, I'm definitely impressed with this movie. Summarizing the movie felt more like summarizing the short story a lot. It's absolutely the most faithful Lovecraft adaptation. And that's very easy to say considering how many Lovecraft adaptations are quite loose when it comes to their source material. Like the previous movie I looked at, Dagon. But is it the best Lovecraft film ever? Well, when it comes to Lovecraft films, I say there are two categories. There are Lovecraftian films, which only include parts and elements of Lovecraft stories, and then there are Lovecraft adaptations, which its quality can be determined by both the faithfulness and the, quality. For the best Lovecraftian film, I would immediately say Reanimator. Not really faithful, but you can't deny its quality. The Call of Cthulhu is, of course, the best Lovecraft adaptation. There really isn't that much competition. The book might as well have been the script. Though when it comes to adapting the story, you can put your own unique spin to the aesthetics as long as you follow the plot. And the Call of Cthulhu does exactly that. It's not really the kind of movie I would watch over and over again like Reanimator,
but it deserves all of the critical praise it's been getting.
As a fan of old Hollywood and the silent film, this film hits most of the right notes, despite being made in 2005. It had the visuals, it had the over-the-top acting required for silent film, but not too much so. It had the music and the tone of a horror film. And above all, it was a believable silent film. I feel like if this was a talkie, it would lose the magic that makes it great. The H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society will be remembered what they did for the great Cthulhu.
As you can see, you can make a great and faithful adaptation of Lovecraft's work. Take notes, Hollywood. Let Guillermo del Toro adapt at the Mountains of Madness without any of your meddling. That wasn't so bad. How about Never?
Yeah, that wasn't so bad. What do you have in mind?
How about Chicago?
Nope, you're on your own now. If you'll excuse me, I have to finish reviewing A Racist Little Girl from the 1930s.